My name is Max Eduardo Paul Abreu. I was born either in Mexico City or in Guadalajara. I'm not sure because I don't have a Mexican birth certificate. The birth certificate I do have is an American document, and it's not valid in Mexico. And it says I was born in Mexico. My parents that raised me were Max Paul and Magdalena Abreu. My birth mother was Lulu Abreu. My siblings, I was born August 4th, 1965, according to the birth certificate I do have. My siblings directly above me are Felipe Paul Abreu, and underneath is Lenny Edith Abreu. And I now live in San Diego, 6730 Saranac Street, right off of 70th Street in San Diego. Well, I remember like little fragments of being near train tracks when I was very young. I don't know why, either train tracks or trolley tracks, but I think it was train tracks, and I think that was in Chula Vista. And I have memories of that, but I don't know exactly how I was placed there or what. And then my next memories were living at 519 Carvalho's Drive. Yeah. No, like I said, I remember coming without, like, you know, Phil or even my mother. I remember coming on my own somehow with somebody. Very small, not by myself, but I remember being, like I said, I have memories of like a train track or somewhere in Chula Vista, but I know I wasn't living with Max Paul I was not living with the family.
Who were you living with?
I don't remember.
Okay. So, do you know how it is that you ended up with Max Paul and?
I don't. I have childhood memories of living in that house since we were very young.
Hmm.
And I know Lenny and Caesar came later.
You remember when Lenny and Caesar came?
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
It was, they were introduced to us as our brothers and sisters. It was first Lenny.
Right.
Yeah.
You felt okay with that? Did you understand how it was that they were your brother and sister?
They never gave us like detailed explanations. They just said, "This is your sister."
By the time Caesar came, how old were you?
I must have been
in middle school, I think.
Must have been 8, 9, maybe.
Yeah?
Yeah. Maybe a little older.
What was that like?
Like I said, it was just, there was...
You didn't question it? You didn't say what?
No, when I started questioning things was one year when we were in Cuautla, Jalisco. Lulu had asked me to sleep with her, and she was obviously loaded, on alcohol and whatever she was taking at the time, and I was falling asleep and she was rubbing my head, and I remember her telling me that she was my mother. And I was confused, and so I called out to my mom, Magdalena, and I remember my mom coming in and slapping her and saying, estúpida, ¿cómo se te ocurre decir algo así, but I remember that vividly. That year when I got that, after that vacation when we got back, I asked my father, Yes. I said, hey, you know, who's my real parents, and what's the deal with? And he told me it was him, that he was my real father. He showed me the birth certificate, and he said, that there is no reason I should believe any different. That he was 100% my real father, and that Magdalena was my real mother. And I left it at that. But that was the first time I had realized there was something, that wasn't right.
Did you talk to your brother about that?
Yeah, I talked to Phil about it. I think Phil knew more than I did. I think he was more aware of the situation.
Did he give you any more information about it?
No. No. He was very tight-lipped about anything like that.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe he was instructed to be, or, maybe someone had told him, look, they don't need to know what's really going on. Maybe. I have no idea, but I think Phil knew from the get-go.
So you come to live in the United States, you really don't have solid memories of actually moving into the new house?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I have, it's funny because I have more, I have childhood memories of the house, but I was already older. I remember also being at Lucy's house or my Uncle Chico's house. And it was, I forget, I don't know if it was an OB or, but they had a garage. And I think, Uncle Chico, I don't know if he was living there or he was at that house. But I remember he was around, with my aunt and your sister.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bill. I remember that really well for whatever reason.
What were you doing there?
Well, I remember we were playing in the garage on a mountain of,
Pot?
Yeah, basically. On a mountain of stuff that once shouldn't have probably been there. And I remember them taking us out of there. Yeah, but I remember that super vividly. So, I remember my mom was there that day, Magdalena. And it's funny that I have that memory super embedded in my,
How old do you think you were?
Oh, young. Yeah. I think Phil was with me.
Just Phil.
Yeah.
So, do you have memories of preschool?
No, elementary school.
Elementary school at what point?
Probably since, I could remember my 6th grade teacher, my 5th grade teacher. Probably 3rd grade, maybe 2nd grade.
Yeah?
At Allen B. Allen.
Mm-hmm.
In Bonita. I'll tell you what I do remember a lot. You took me to dance classes, to all that jazz out in, this is in Chula Vista. I think it was over by 3rd Avenue or something. A little studio there. I was one of the only guys in there.
You were the only.
I was the only, I think. But I don't remember.
You were.
No, I didn't. I liked it. I remember liking it.
The fact that you were the only boy.
No, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah. I was surprised.
I don't know how old I was though, but I remember that.
You were in elementary school. So, 2nd grade, tell me about what your life looks like around that time. 2nd grade, you're 7 years old.
Oh, it was great.
What's your daily life like?
It was amazing. We had, we lived in a big house. We had maids. We had anything you can possibly wish for at that time. There was none of the dysfunction that came later in my life was apparent yet. Yeah, it was it was a very gifted life at that point.
Did you realize at that point that it was a gifted life? Maybe not when you were 7,
Yeah,
but
maybe
at
not. As
some
I grew
point.
older, I realized that we had a lot more than other people had. I never really absorbed it though, as much as like Philip did. I was more always down to earth, and I never really hung out with people that had a lot of money. I was more hanging around with. I had as I grew older, I had better relationships with just your average, people that were living a humble life than the people with a lot of money. Oh, that wasn't consciously. It was just I just seemed to have more in common with them. I never really liked dressing up, and no.
No, not like Philip with his hair slicked back.
No, I never really cared for any of that stuff.
What was important to you?
Just real friendship. I always thought a lot of those people with a lot of money were phony, because they just came across like it. Like if I remember them looking down at other people that didn't have what we had, and I always looked at people equally. It's fun. I remember my father telling me to hang out with people that were more in our status. And then I did that, and it ended up worse because those people had access to everything. And so he said, no, go back. Go back to
the poor.
Go back to the poor. You were better off over there. I also learned at a young age that my father was very racist.
How did you learn that?
A really sad way. I brought over a friend named Damien. Back then in school we had 2 black people in the whole school at Hilltop High. 2. Eddie and Damien.
Were you one of them?
No, but I brought Damien over, who was the running back of the team, of the high school team, and my dad pulled me to the side and told me to never bring a black man to the house. And he didn't use a black man. He used
a Hebrew word.
He used which really shocked the hell out of me, because knowing where he came from, that racism basically killed all his family. It was just shocking as hell to me to think that he still had racism in him. And even my mom had it, I guess, from being around him. I don't know.
Tell me about your mom. I don't want you to go past like the age of 10, 12, okay? What were your impressions, and what was your relationship like? What was she like? How did you see her like?
She was a good mother. She did a really good job, when I was young, and well, she was we never needed anything as far as emotionally. She was there with love, and I remember, once in a while she'd, drop the ball on taking me to practice or baseball practice or something to that extent. But as far as emotionally being there, she was always there for us, or for me at least. Yeah, at that age.
Yeah.
At 10 to 12. Definitely.
And your dad?
He was absent a lot because he worked a lot. And most of his affection a lot of it was based on buying money, And he loved us, but he definitely, I think, bought a lot of our love, He worked a lot. So when he'd come home, we'd see him we always ate together at the same time. He was really weird about that.
Wait, you were very weird about that?
He was.
Oh.
He was at 6 o'clock. We had to be at the dinner table. And then he'd watch the game. He was really into sports. So he'd go to his room, when we went on vacations, he really never went with us. He only met us, like if we went somewhere, he'd meet us on the weekend or something. He worked at his stores in Tijuana, at Sarah's, primarily. He was in the retail business of clothing.
And your mom?
She was a housewife.
Again, I don't want to go past 12, okay? Family vacations, what are some of your memories that really stick out for you of family events?
Well, almost every year we'd go to Acapulco, and we would stay at these, right near the Princess Hotel. The Meseta had some little houses. They're kind of little duplexes or whatever they were. There was a bunch of them, and I guess, loan my father one or two, and we would all go there, and the Navarros would meet us there. That was almost yearly we would do that one. I also remember, I think we went to Hawaii one year. We went on a helicopter ride with my father. I remember that one really well. But Acapulco, I remember doing a lot every year since we were very young. And I remember Gomezeta's wife was crazy. I remember there were some bullet holes in that house. I remember that she shot up yeah, she was I remember that family well. I remember his kid used to go to where Jaime was going to school, to the military school. They had Ferraris before they were even 16 years old. But I guess that'd be after 12, but before 12 I remember trips to Acapulco and, Disneyland. A lot of Disneyland trips. Do you remember those too? We went to Disneyland a lot, at least, yeah. Oh yeah, I remember going to Mexico City and, when we first met the Escalas. Federico was a baby still, but David Escala, Jano, and also El Güero, but he wasn't Escala, he was, I don't know what his last name was, Güero and his brother. They used to live like in a Club de Santa Rita or some golf course, but I remember a lot, that's when definitely we leaped into like teenagers, because they were all, it was a big party scene. Big party scene.
What were you doing in Mexico City?
Visiting, my mom and my dad had a good relationship with Chela and Jorge Rodriguez. And I remember that jumping in adolescence then, we were exposed to a lot of what began like the dysfunction of drugs and alcohol from the Scalas, from David was partying hard. David Escala was, they were all partying hard. And Güero, I don't remember what Güero's real name was. I remember his parents, Conchita, I think, or well, he was a disaster. He was in and out of jail. I had no idea that's how he had died. I knew that he was brother. Yeah, they were, that was a lot of dysfunction going on there. But there was a lot of dysfunction going on with the adults before that we weren't exposed to quite yet. Well, they were all partying. Jorge and my mom and that whole crew of people.
Your dad?
I don't know. I don't think my father was involved in it. At least I never got exposed to that. But I know I got exposed to, the parties that, like the Rodriguez and my mom and whatever the Güero's parents were. Right? Conchita was their name.
Yeah, I think it was Conchita.
I think their dad was an attorney or something.
Yeah, and they lived on a golf course in Guadalajara, out by the lake.
Yeah, nice house.
Yeah.
On the golf course. El Club de
But Güero was much older than you guys.
Wait, that's why I'm telling you. That's when we got shoved into teenage years. Yeah. We got exposed to a lot of crap. Shit, probably 12.
Yeah? So then when was the first time you got high?
Probably about that age, 13, 12. I know those guys were doing a lot of drugs and listening to Aerosmith and, they're the ones that turned me on to a lot of that music.
Really? And they lived in Mexico. That's hilarious.
In Mexico, yeah, exactly. Well, I remember you bought me a Pink Floyd album. You bought me, and I was so bummed out because I wanted the Steve Miller album. And you bought me like Umma Gumma or something. It was like...
No, I bought you
Dark Side of the Moon. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
which ends up being a great album, but I just didn't know at the time. I didn't understand it.
It had a gay flag on it, a rainbow. And then I was like, yeah, let's get him that one.
Yeah, I remember. That album's a great album, but I didn't understand what the hell it was about.
I don't even know who Steve Miller is.
Huh? You do. Have you heard of...
So, now that you're an adolescent, you're in middle school, what's your relationship like with your brother?
It's good, but we're definitely, we definitely have distance because he's hanging out with, like I said, he's hanging out with people like the Scolar. What was the other guy's name who's now the mayor of Mexico or something like that? I don't know, but he was hanging out with a lot of the Richies from Tijuana, and I was hanging out with more like rock and roll kids, and so we had a separation, definitely. But we definitely loved each other, but there is definitely different lifestyles we were living. He was definitely he was very, very into like the rich.
Getting dressed there.
Very much so. Yeah, and he was a couple years older than me, so they were already going to TJ and hanging out at the.
How many years?
Well, 2, 3.
Oh, that's not much.
No, but when you're young, it is.
Yeah,
when you're 13 and he's 16, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would drive him crazy because I was, especially like at 16 and stuff, when I started playing guitar and stuff. I'd have friends over and playing music early in the morning, and it's funny how things worked out because I was the one that was partying really hard, and it ended up later in life, reversed.
Was he a protector? Did you lean on him for protection? Did you lean on him for leadership?
Not as when I was young. I remember he'd hold my hand for me to fall asleep when I was very young. But as we got older, no, not so much. He'd kick my ass all the time. Like if we were playing sports and I would, and I missed a ball or something, he'd come over and beat my ass. And then if I quit, he'd kick my ass again. So no, he definitely didn't protect me later in life.
But when you guys are both early teenagers, you're both maybe in middle school.
Not too much. When we were very young, he was very protective. As we got older, like I said, we kind of went our separate ways.
Now that you mentioned that about him having the more privileged kids as friends versus you, and see what I just did? Look. No, yeah. I should have been like this. And now I'm thinking, you're right. You didn't.
I definitely didn't.
But how the social, religious connection? Your parents were associated with a synagogue.
Yeah, I completely missed that. When you were asking me about childhood memories, I remember going to the synagogue a lot in Tijuana, and we competed in swimming a lot. We had every year there was the swimming competitions, and we took judo lessons at that synagogue, going to parties. I remember one memory now that my mom made me dress up like as Winnie the Pooh or something, and
it was for Purim.
Huh?
It's a holiday called Purim where the kids wear costumes.
I was so mad about that outfit.
You were adorable. That's Winnie the Pooh. Actually,
you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe she forced me to wear it.
Somebody was a pirate. Was Bill a pirate?
I guess I remember that clearly because it was whatever the event was, they did it upstairs. Mm-hmm. And they had food and yeah. So I remember that one really clearly. So that's a good memory that just jogged.
Yeah. Did you feel that your family were practicing Jews?
No. I felt that it was like a status thing.
Really?
Oh, for sure. I felt that. Yeah, we never went to like Shabbat or.
Yeah, no.
No. And we did Christmas.
That's
right. My dad even dressed up as Santa Claus. I remember when the guy that was teaching me how to do my bar mitzvah came over, and the Christmas tree was there, and the guy almost fainted, It's like, the hell is this? I felt was definitely a status thing.
How did you feel about...
Yeah, but he didn't follow the religion. He ate, he definitely wasn't a practicing...
That happened with a lot of Holocaust survivors.
It did?
They kept their Judaism. The truth is, your father's Judaism was very, very important to him. You remember whenever it was Christmas, he'd always say, "This isn't my holiday." You remember that? Even though he would participate, he'd always be the one that handed out all the presents.
Yeah.
But he'd always make sure that everybody knew, this is not my holiday.
Right. I don't recall that.
Mm.
No, but I mean, I knew he stuck to the Jewish, to
His friends.
his friends. Yeah.
So while he wasn't practicing, culturally he was.
Right.
He spoke very good Yiddish.
Yeah. He was a smart man.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He was a self-made man.
Yeah, he sure was.
Did he ever tell you his experience as a child in being in a concentration camp?
Yeah, he told me once that he had escaped and that he had made it to Mexico. And I guess that's where he met Hano. I don't know. I think his name was Hano.
Yeah.
And that then somehow they ended
really
up...
white looking guy.
Yeah. Super white looking guy.
And his wife was also very white.
Yep. And their son was
Polish.
really white. The son was a big kid who walked right through a window at our house. The window was closed, and I guess it was so clean he went, he walked right through it. But yeah, he let us know where his roots were from, and he didn't talk a lot about it though.
Did you ever ask him about it later, like specific questions?
No, me and him got along pretty well until the end, until they got divorced. Yeah, we did. Me and him used to go to the movies a lot together. Yeah, he took me to see most of Clint Eastwood movies when I was probably too young to be seeing those movies. So whenever one comes on, any of the detective ones he did, the Dirty Harry movies, it reminds me a lot of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have good memories of him. Regardless of how things ended up, he was definitely a good guy to us.
He liked being a father.
He just made, I think, a poor choice at the end.
I mean, I don't know what happened at the end, so I wasn't there. So now you go from being a preteen or a teen into 16.
Well, that's about when the divorce had happened.
What was it? How unwind that for me? Like, when did you start feeling like something was going on, and what was that like?
I never knew that's what was so weird. I never
Just really
knew
quick.
Yeah.
Did somebody try to get in your pants with their teeth or something? Oh, okay. I thought maybe somebody had tried to eat.
I don't know what happened. That's what was hard about their divorce, that they never fought, ever in front of us.
I know.
And then one day, it was over. And my dad had...
How was it over?
Extremely fast and shocking. It was just... seemed like from one day to the next, all of a sudden the sheriffs came and asked Max to leave the house. Yeah. And that was an ego, that crushed his pride.
Were you there?
Yeah.
What happened?
They just came and had an order of the judge to evacuate the house. And my mom was hanging out with this guy named Eduardo Paul, who I couldn't stand. I hated him. I wanted to fight him one night. I just could. There was something about that guy that gave me the...
He was easy.
He gave me the heebie-jeebies. Not a good man.
No.
And that was all.
Do you think, was that your mother's... What was the relationship between Fregoso and your mom?
Well, from my point of view, they were actually, I guess, like having not an affair, you would say, because my mom was getting divorced, but I think they had a relationship going. I took the divorce pretty, it didn't affect me like it affected Philip. I was still...
There's somebody knocks at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it wasn't your dad who answered the door. Can you tell me the blow-by-blow to that?
With the sheriffs?
Mm-hmm.
I don't forget who answered, but I just remember him getting served that and him having to leave right then and there.
Was your mom home?
No.
She wasn't home?
Uh-uh.
Who was home? You were home?
I was home.
Did he tell you what was happening?
No.
Did Did you ask him what's up?
Not really. I didn't know what, I wasn't sure what was going on, but he definitely, he definitely gave us an ultimatum after that.
He's being told to leave. I know your father, and I can't imagine that he took it like, okay.
Oh no, he was pissed. He was very, very upset. He couldn't believe it was happening. I couldn't believe it was happening. And that was the beginning of the end, really, of the great life we had, as far as, having, everything at our fingertips.
So your dad leaves the house, and you're left thinking what?
I didn't think, I'll be honest with you, I was in such a good place in my life, and I had such good friends. I didn't think much of it. I just thought, well, they're divorced, and I'll see both of them. And, I had other friends whose parents had been divorced. But I remember Philip, wouldn't leave the room. He was devastated.
Why do you think?
I don't know, but he took it super hard. I remember resented my mother for it tons. Even to the day she died, Phil had resent. I never did. I just figured, just part of life. People separate.
At what point does somebody sit you guys down and tell you what's up?
Nobody really ever sat us down. It was more, we were just like, I think they did a really poor job at that, both of them. Nobody ever said, look, it was just, my mom starting to see this Fregoso guy and her life kind of leading in a different direction. That's when she started failing as not a good mother. I don't want to say failing as a good mother, but definitely her responsibilities had fallen apart. Her priorities changed, and I remember...
But wait. Back up, though. How old is Caesar at this point? He's still in school. He
never finished school, Caesar. I'm telling, that's when things fell apart. I don't think Lenny even graduated. They got the real raw deal of it, because we got better years of the good life. And, for a while we were out eating with my father. We'd go eat with him every weekend, and then he just kind of made an ultimatum. It's either your mother or me.
Those were his actual words to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And he would talk very poorly about her, which was which I finally put an end to it. I remember that day we were at Bob's Big Boy in Chula Vista, and I walked out. I just said, I don't want you to talk about my mother that way anymore. And, it proved to be a good-hearted thing, but a bad financial choice. Yeah, so, that proved to be... But, I think that's where I think my father kind of lost his head on where, for what a smart man he was. How can you put, your children in that position to make a choice like that? I think we were driving by then.
Oh. So
we'd meet them.
They would decide where you're going to meet,
yeah.
And then all four of you guys would go?
Yeah, yes. And if my memory serves me correctly, so would Celia and
Sonia.
And Sonia.
Jaime
was kind of, but he was out of the picture. After Jaime started getting in trouble, it's like everybody alienated him. Not us, but the adults, which was really shitty too. So those are things I think that Max Paul Sr. lacked a lot in, how easy he could relinquish something that he loved and say, oh, I'm done with it.
Holocaust survivors say, and I'm never going to put myself in this situation again.
Yeah, maybe I never thought of that, but maybe that's because I remember he definitely parted from Jaime pretty easily. And he thought, money was a solution. He threw money at it. really stern as far as like, if, things had to go the way he wanted, or you knew, he was upset. But he wasn't violent, but he was stern, definitely his way or the highway. He was a good guy though. He was great, he was a great father to me. Yeah, he really was. Yeah, he was really good. That's why I never understood it, like why he chose to end like a relationship with his kids over his ego and his pride.
So tell me about the conversation at Bob's Big Book.
Bob, he just, he called my mom like a whore and, basically a low-life piece of shit, and that we had to make a choice. It was either stay with him or with her. And I got up and I said, I'm staying with my mom. I can't stand you talking bad about her anymore. And the rest of them, I think Phil followed after I left. He came, but I know they all sat there, and I remember leaving. And that was the last I really spoke to him. I went back years later to look for him when I had Skylar, and he didn't want to see me. That's what his wife said when I went to his house. I went with her so he could meet his granddaughter. And his wife said he doesn't want to see you. I was like, all right. That was hard, really hard. It was, I might have done it at a wrong time because we were definitely starting to go through financial hardship with the family. And maybe it seemed like the wrong reason, which may have been. Well, why didn't I go look for him earlier in my life? Which but he definitely denied seeing me. And then I was working at the butcher shop, in Chula Vista, the steakhouse, and my dad came in to eat, and I was a busboy, and I remember picking up his plates, which was really awkward. It was just super awkward. I think it was awkward for him too. His new wife, I think. I don't even know if they had been married yet, and a couple friends. And so there I was picking up their dirty dishes.
When did you realize he was in the restaurant? When he asked for saccharin?
Yeah, in a tab, right? No, I realized, the restaurant ain't all that big. And I remember, talking to one of the girls there, and I looked over and I saw him, and I was like, shit, there's my dad. And I went up and said hi and did my thing,
What was his response when you said hi?
He said hi.
Yeah.
But he didn't really, there wasn't much more said.
There wasn't no eye contact, like...
Very, very little.
Yeah?
That was hard. It was very hard.
And how was it hard?
Oh, it was crazy hard because I knew I'd already been to his house and he told me he didn't want to see me.
Oh, that was after?
Yeah, so it was weird. Yeah, I would never do that to my kids. I don't know what he was thinking, but next time I ever heard of him, he had died, and I went to his funeral.
When was that? What year was that in?
Oh, I don't recall. But I know I went, I shoveled dirt in his grave. And that was hard. I didn't think it'd be hard. I thought, he had already been dead in my, in my heart, because, but it was hard. It was really difficult.
Why? What were you losing at that point?
My father. The only one I knew as a father. It was definitely a difficult moment. I cried. I remember breaking down there, and all the people that were there, at least in my perception, they couldn't believe we were there. Like, they were like, what are they doing here? Yeah, because we hadn't spoken to him in so long.
Oh, but not everybody knew that, did they?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, for sure. Everybody knew. Phil went with me.
Just the two of you?
I don't remember if Lenny and Caesar went, but I know Phil was there for sure.
And what was the reception like? You guys probably knew every single person there?
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. 90%, 95% of them, yeah. You know, it was awkward. A lot of hypocritical people that were just, like I said, I mean, it might have been just my perception, but we definitely weren't wanted there. Yeah, I don't recall where I was living, but definitely in San Diego.
Did you take any of your kids?
No.
No?
Uh-uh.
Was that a decision that you said, that you thought of, was there any thought?
Yeah, I just thought why put them through that? They didn't, they never got to meet him. God, it's crazy how long it's been, because if you think about it, Brittany's 23 now, so yeah, she didn't even get,
Yeah. Well, how old is Skylar? Where was he buried?
At the Jewish cemetery, right? I think it's like Paradise Zone or something. I think. I was there, I just don't recall exactly where it's at.
Have you ever gone?
Back? No.
Why?
I don't know.
Have you ever thought about it?
I think about it. Yeah, I think about him all the time.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I even dream with him.
Do you?
Yeah.
In your dream, what's going on there?
Oh, they're always good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, they're not negative. I dream about my mom a lot, too.
Reasonable.
Yeah. Hers are more funny, though. Hers are always her complaining about something or, telling me, negative crap.
Family all moved to Mexico at some point. Why did they move to Mexico?
Because Phil wasn't doing good at all. And somehow my mom thought that move would save his life.
Seriously?
Yeah. He was doing very poorly.
In what way?
He was, I think my mom thought he was going to die. Yeah, he didn't look very well. I think he may have died if he would have stayed in the U.S. Not that there's not drugs in Mexico, but I think it got him away from the element where he was using a lot. And I think that's where his affliction with, he always had an affliction with alcohol, but I think that's where it excelled, because he turned to drinking more. Him and Max, I think that's where his real alcoholism, went into overdrive.
What was it like for you to watch your brother go from wherever he was at 16, 17, to where they're deciding to go to Mexico?
Well, it was a hard period, because the transition of moving from the big house to that little house over there by Southwestern College was terrible.
Why?
Because it was just it was like, I felt like it was like a part of our lives was being taken from us. Like a whole new chapter was starting. And it wasn't a good chapter, I felt like the beginning of a bad situation was starting, and I was right. And
why did you guys move before you left?
Because my mom had no more money.
No.
Because the money was mismanaged so poorly. She opened a shoe store, like a shoe factory, which she just got ripped off, and I bought a yacht, cars. I don't blame her though, fully.
No.
We weren't exactly helpful. We were partying instead of being smart and trying to be business people. We were out partying. But when they moved, I couldn't leave because I had Skylar in my life. So I had to make, my mom basically said, you're either coming with us or you're going to have to fend for yourself. So I fended for myself. I worked at Long's drugstore, at the butcher shop, Long's drugstore. Where else was I working? Those two. Long's Drugstore I worked for a long time.
You liked working. I mean, you liked having a job. Maybe you didn't, but you understood that you had to. Where Philip, I don't recall Philip having a job until
now.
recently.
Well,
I mean, like in the last 10 years, really.
Well, Phil always felt that he was too good to have a job. Phil always felt that he was Max Paul's son, and, he wasn't going to go work at Long's Drugstore.
Did he ever say that to you?
Oh, yeah. He said, are you crazy?
What would you think?
I thought it was funny.
Did you?
Yeah, I thought he was crazy.
What was it that was so disappointing to him in his life that he couldn't hang in?
Going from riches to poor was just, it destroyed him. And it still does, of course.
Well, he's now been poor longer than he was with.
Yeah, but it's been devastating to him.
How do you know?
Because I know I was there to hear him talk terrible things to my mother, when they were both drinking.
Yeah.
He would say some absolutely cruel thing, which I would tell him, you have to stop with that, Phil, don't, it would, to the point where I'd tell him, look, don't make me do something stupid, don't, just please respect, to be thankful for what she did give us.
Yeah.
He would tell her that thanks to her we're so screwed, thanks to her, but in a lot meaner fashion.
Oh yeah, no, I imagine he wasn't saying look.
No, he would say it very, very disrespectful. And I always thought, come on, man, you're 40 now, you're going to blame her the rest of your life?
What was losing the money to you? What did it mean?
Nothing at the time.
What do you mean at the time? What time?
Well, at the time when it first happened, I didn't care. I didn't, I was working, making a little money, and I got my little apartment. It meant nothing. Now that I'm older, I realize, like, God, I wish we had it. Especially the last 3-4 years have been super hard, so, but at the time, it didn't mean, losing the house was weird. Losing our residence was, that was hard for me. I remember I was so sad because I loved that house. I mean, I absolutely loved that. If I were rich, I'd try to buy it back.
It's so funny, I went there yesterday because I loved that house too.
Yeah, I mean, God, I love that house. I have tons of memories in that house. Just everything. I remember my mom used to love going down to the huerta and, watering their trees.
Yeah.
And that was a cool house.
It was a very cool house. It was an incredibly cool house.
That was harder than losing the money because I didn't really associate the house with money.
Yeah, no.
It was my home. And on the new house, I hated it.
Did you guys buy a house?
She rented it, I think. And I remember Lenny's kids were with us. They were young. I remember sitting Christine up upstairs on a window ledge, looking at the stars and talking to the kid. And so I remember Lenny was not doing well at all.
Which of Lenny's kids were with you? Just Christina?
Christina, for sure. Yeah, but she went with us to that other house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember that clearly. I don't know, Lenny went through a way crazy time. I'm amazed. Because she ran out of money. Because she mismanaged the money so poorly, and then she sold the house for not that much money either. I mean, it seems like a lot of money, but she was used to living, spending a lot of money. I must say, she adapted well to being poor.
She had been poor before.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, she should have, could have, but if she wasn't happy, then she wasn't happy.
Yeah.
That's what I always told Phil. Even, I always told Phil, if Mom dies, you're going to regret the crap you say to her, man. And I'm sure somewhere in his heart he does. Because he said some super bad, mean stuff. Well, he's the one that has to live with it.
I know, but it obviously hurt you.
Yeah, I think my brother's drinking has to do with a deep-rooted issue.
What is it?
I just not being able to face reality that, he's still a nice guy. He's still, not just because you're poor, he makes you an asshole or a bad person. And I think he's just never learned to deal with that. I really don't know exactly if that's it, but I know there has to be a deep-rooted problem. Like with me, with my binge drinking, when I binge drink, I'm not sitting there thinking, I feel so bad that I'm poor. I just thinking, I'm having a good time and being an asshole to whoever, and then it ends and I feel so sick I don't want to look at alcohol and I'm done with it. But for him, it seems like it's become obviously a disease, but it's something he's masking. There has to be a deep-rooted sadness that's
huge.
That's huge. That he's never going to deal with unless he quits for a little bit and stops. I worry about him very much. And I may die way before him. It's the ironic part of life, right? That I worry so much that, he's killing himself, but I stress more than about anything, exactly. So I think maybe you should just shut the hell up and let him enjoy his drinking, man. No, but I mean, if you lived with him for 6 months, not even 6 months, 1 month, you would see what I see, and I guarantee you would be calling a specialist, because nobody sees it like I do. I see it firsthand, and I see the damage it's doing to his brain. Oh man, there's sometimes he can't even make a full sentence, and that's not just while he's drunk. It'll be like the next morning, it's just like he can't focus, he can't. And then once he has his, a few tall boys, then he's back to a level. So that's sad for me, because I know the direction it's going. It's not going to get better unless he gets help. But he says he says that he's funny. He says that I'm just, I'm jealous, or what does he say? Yeah, that I'm jealous that I don't know how to have a good time. And he says that I am. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm really not. But maybe, I might be wrong. Maybe with time he'll slow down. I hope. He's a really good-hearted guy. No, and he still does. I mean, he still.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
He still kisses me, like when he comes in at 3 in the morning, and I mean, if God, otherwise I would have already. Like people say, why don't you kick him out? I don't think I'd be doing him any help kicking him out. I know people think, well, you're enabling him, but I don't think I'd be helping him.
How many times have you been married?
Never.
Oh, you've never been married?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-mm. No.
You were with Skylar's mom.
For a long time.
Were you in love?
Yeah, I loved her. I was in love with her. I think I have a lack of knowledge of what it is to be in love. I do. I think I tend to not know how to fulfill someone, or someone needs to feel loved.
Why do you think that?
Not with my children. I'm great with that, man. But I don't know, it's something I feel it might even be like a selfish thing in me, where I'm so, I don't think I'm a narcissist. I don't think it's all about me, but I think it sure can be a close close, like, well, like I said, I just, well, that's what both women that I've loved have told me, that I'm not giving them what they need.
Do you feel fulfilled in the relationships, the two relationships that you've had? That
With Lori, I felt fulfilled, but I always felt the need to be out fucking around, looking for somebody else or something, yeah. But not like to have another relationship just to have fun, I guess, but that's selfish as hell. Like, I never carried on another relationship with, when I was with Lori, but I did cheat on her.
did she find out?
Yes.
So after Lori, you, how long were you with Lori?
God, like 7 years, I think.
Oh wow, you meet her in high school?
No, I met her after high school.
Why did you get married?
I don't know. I don't really believe in the vows of marriage. I think people don't even take them for what they are anymore. I don't think, people get divorced like nothing. There's no more true commitment to those vows, I think. I don't think a ring and a paper makes you love someone anymore.
Do you think that if you were married, you could respect your vows?
I don't know. I think my chances would be way greater if I stayed away from alcohol. No, drugs were never a problem for me. Well, alcohol is a drug, but it's alcohol. I mean, once
Yeah,
I have
it's everywhere.
I have a few drinks and I feel like you're the best looking guy on earth, and all your inhibitions go away. So, but yeah, so I mean, when Chrissy came back into my life, I didn't want her in my life. She just was so persistent, and I think she's beautiful and she was fun to hang out with, but I definitely didn't want a relationship with her. I just didn't. I didn't. I wasn't like in love with her. I didn't. But she was so persistent and just hung in there, and hung in there, and
Wow.
I ended up falling in love with her. Yeah, yeah, very much so. But things, just a lot of disrespect on both ends, and they finished.
Tell me about your kids.
I adore my kids. I wasn't the best father to Brittany or Skylar because I was still too immature and selfish and more thinking of myself. But I think I was really solid with Max and with Isabella. And I'm trying to make it up to Brittany now as much as I can, which, by watching her kids and helping her out and trying to guide her the right way. And Skylar, she rarely talks to me. Yeah, if I don't call her, she doesn't call me. And Yorba Linda, her mom married to like a super rich guy. So they're very, very wealthy, and I was kind of a deadbeat dad. I never paid child support on that end. And I think that she's gotten older, this is what, again, I'm assuming because I don't know, but maybe her mom's told her, your dad was never there or something. Maybe she has resentment. I mean, she tells me she loves me when we talk.
I remember you stayed here for her.
I did. I loved her to death. I love her to death. I mean, and I always let her know that when I call her, if she don't answer, I always tell her, hey, I just want to let you know I love you and I'm here. What else can you do, right? And Isabella, man, I'm afraid to let her go to the corner.
I don't blame you.
Oh, there's just so many weirdos and
Hmm?
there's just so many weirdos and things that can happen. Oh, she's just way mature for her age too. I mean, it's crazy. The other girls didn't develop that quick. I've been blessed with those kids. Yeah, I mean, I don't know many teenagers like my son's age that still tell their dad I love you, or like could sleep with their dad and hug him. Max slept with me last night and hugged me.
Your kids love you in an impressive way.
And I think that's cool, that an 18-year-old kid, he's going to be 18, could sleep with his dad and hug him and not feel awkward about it.
Yeah, no. I think you're a good father.
I try, and I know they don't like to see me drunk. And I accept it. And I'll tell you something really weird. My friends love to take me out drinking. Love it, because they say I'm funny, they have the best time. But when I'm around my family, I'm an asshole. Well, I'm a bad drunk. But yet when I'm around my friends, I'm like the laugh of the party, I mean, these guys, and I ask myself, what is that about? Why do you why do you get that? I mean, what is it that they've done to you that you're so angry about? I don't even have an answer for that. Even Brittany tells me, God, Dad, you can be so mean when you're drunk.
I've seen you drunk and you're funny and you're...
Oh, I can be a dick, and I hate it. Because that's what I used to hate about my mother. I hate it about Phil. And then I do the same. But yet, I only do it with certain people.
The people that you love the most.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I've made that conscious choice, just don't be drunk around your kids. And if you're going to have a drink, then have one or two. Don't get drunk
Can you do that?
Yeah, I can. But honestly, I don't enjoy it, so I just prefer not to drink if I'm going to do that.
Max Eduardo Paul, what do you want? Oh, I understand now who he was.
Well, I want him to take away that the most important thing in life is family. To keep the unity of the family together. And even though at times, it feels like, the family's so broken or so...
Yeah.
Or
dysfunctional
or any words you can find for it, and you might find comfort in friends, but the reality is there's no one like family. And you got to keep that unity, for their children and the children after them, and teach them the same values of loving their children and being united as a family. And hopefully they will be more united than my generation is, because the only time we seem to see each other is at funerals or weddings, or, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the last time I saw Sonia was...
Well, every time I...
Yeah, but, like, Sonia, I mean, Michelle, she called me one time and said, I love Michelle. She left me a message, said, we never see each other and we lived 15 minutes apart. That is crazy.
How come?
Because we get so wrapped up, not her, me at least, so wrapped up in the bullshit of life. If I could if I could, be in the state of mind I am today, a year ago, I think I'd be in a better place. I was just not in a good place.
Yeah. Well, you guys have been tumbled and rumbled by life, pretty much.
Yeah, but so is everybody else,
Yeah,
and that's one thing, you can't just sit there and feel sorry for,
Well, you have to at least process it, though. You can't ignore it.
So I'll give you like an example with Chrissy, who I miss dearly. I mean, I love her to death. She's like a sister to me. Yeah, I miss her more than anything in the world, but I don't miss the fighting. I don't miss coming home and starting the day, the minute you walk through the door with cursing at each other and being miserable. And that's no fun. And it's so unhealthy, especially for the kids. And we did it for a long time, and we put those kids through hell.
So I take away that you're a good father.
I have had bad moments, and those were bad judgment calls. I can't live without them. Well, they're just weak. How can you, I can't even think of them. In fact, that's what hurt me the most when Chrissy picked up her clothes, Isabella's clothes, and I knew what she was doing it to hurt me. Because I know she ain't gonna, I mean, I don't mean this mean, but she's not very stable, and those kids are going to be with me. And that was just like a power play. I mean, since she picked up her clothes and said, okay, I'm going to get the kid these days, your kid's been with me 90% of the time. She loves those kids, but I think her childhood was so tough that it's hard to break that chain, that cycle. Remember when we went on the train?
Yes.
Do you remember?
It's one of my best memories in my life, actually.
Me too. That was so cool.
It was amazing.
We were young. How old were you then?
I already had Paul, but he was a toddler, maybe.
Did Lucy go that trip too?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Michelle and Sonia did. They were little.
They did?
Yeah.
We went all over Mexico, right?
Right.
It was absolutely amazing.
It was.
See, the fact that we don't have video of that stuff is crazy that we didn't document it.
I know.
That was a great... Max didn't go though, huh?
No.
No, because I remember I was already smoking pot.
Philip on the train.
I remember that.
Lots of coke.
Well, I remember finding blocks of coke and Jorge Rodriguez's house, like a block.
You know that he works for your father.
I didn't know that. That's another thing that, that, like when doctors ask me, because I suffer a lot from panic disorders and anxiety disorders, and I don't know what to tell them. Like, who in your family has had them? Because I don't know where the hell I come from. Well, I know Lulu, but I don't know who my father was. I don't know what kind of medical history he has.
Yeah.
I'd love to, like, go, I mean,
Find him.
Yeah, that'd be cool for me, if he's alive.
You've never told your kids you're adopted.
No, I never. I mean, I always, for me, my mom was Magdalena. Mm-hmm. She raised me, so I never felt the need to tell her. But I think it'd be confusing as hell for Isabella right now. I think later, maybe. Like Max, I think, would understand. I think Max knows.